So, is it true that you were in a cult?
No. It depends on how you define a cult.
How would you define a cult?
It really depends on what we're talking about. In the modern world, cult is kind of a pejorative word, right? Like when you say cult, it's bad. But kind of going back to Roman history, cult used to just be a group of people venerating either like one particular god or a person. Like Julius Caesar had a cult after he died that like venerated his genius. Like it's an in group where you need to know some stuff to get what's happening inside of it. And so I think cult,
It gets a bad rep?
the word cult has got a bad rep. Everyone's gonna kind of fall into a cult of some kind.
Whether they realize it or not.
Yeah, and I mean, because there's cult, like we also think about it as being like a religious or spiritual thing broadly, but I think there's a lot more to it. And I think if you look at broadly, like Mormons, like they're some of the nicest, most welcoming, like happiest living people on the planet. But there's a lot of people who will say that like the Mormonism is a cult, and it probably is, but it's not bad for them necessarily. Now a lot of people do have like really bad experiences with that, and like they are maybe a little more exclusionary than Christianity is broadly. How are you going to tell somebody who's like having a great time and it's like really impacting their lives
That they're in a cult.
that they're in a cult? Because again, it's a pejorative thing. But like, yeah, you're in a cult. I'm glad you found one that's working for you. But like, if you look at somebody who's in like CrossFit, CrossFit is a cult.
CrossFit a cult?
CrossFit's a cult.
Confirmed?
Confirmed CrossFit's a cult. That should be the name of this interview. Because it really is. I see so many people who start going to CrossFit and they're like, wow, this community has changed my life, and like all these people, you know what I mean? And they're just like doing some of the dumbest looking stuff I've ever seen. Now, granted, most of them are super fit.
They
But
are
like
pretty ripped.
to kip a pull up without laughing at yourself, you have to have some cult indoctrination to it's I'm gonna say it's a cult. But again, it's a cult.
It's better than some other rituals.
Sure.
Where was your membership at?
Well, when I was really young, I was raised Seventh Day Adventist. It's just like a kind of Christianity, but they have very like strict and weird beliefs that aren't necessarily followed by the majority of Christians. And then incidentally, my parents found this church when we were in Granbury, Texas, which is 20 miles away from Waco, Texas, which is where the most famous part of the Branch Davidians had a standoff with the U.S. government in which they all died.
What?
And so that's David Koresh. I don't know if
I
you've
don't
heard
know
this.
anything about this.
You don't know anything about the Branch
No.
Davidians? You don't know Waco?
I don't watch the news.
Well, this was 20, 30 years ago, so
Okay.
not surprising. You know, we just moved away and stopped going to that church, and so the great thing about modern Christianity is people are very flowy. Like, they're not attached to like a particular denomination. I think a lot of people have their own ideas. And I think that's probably what distinguishes Christianity from the way a lot of people refer to cults negatively. Christianity, there's a small set of things that you have to believe to be a Christian. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that's like around it. And that's where you get into denominational beliefs and all of that kind of thing.